Well, I want to thank everybody for coming. I really appreciate everybody's interest in the trail and some of the updates that we have to present to you today. I guess what I'd like to do first, my name is Brian Shiznicka. I work with AECOM. We're located in Chicago. We're the designers for the trail. We've been meeting every month with the coalition of the different agencies and municipalities to kind of get everything worked out here and move forward. So I guess what I'd like to do first is introduce Mayor Vargas, say a couple words.
Thank you. I want to welcome everyone again to the island. There are a lot of familiar faces out here, and for the ones who I'm not familiar with, welcome. Again, another exciting historic evening. Even though these are revisions, the main thing is that the trail goes forward. We want to thank the engineers who are here present, taking their time to showing us the new revisions of the Cal-Sag Trail, the east segment, correct? How many of you have already ridden on the western segment? There you go.
I haven't ridden, I've walked it.
That's okay. It counts. It counts. The main thing is, again, the future, not only the trail, the future of green infrastructure, no matter what's happening in Washington, our health and our future for future generations. This basically completes the almost 100-mile trail system within the Chicago metropolitan area. With, is it what, 6 O's? What's it called? The one on Chicago. Yes, that one, this one. That will finally be the network for this whole area. So it's very exciting that Blue Island's part of this. Basically, we're again in the heart of the trail. Centrical, again. Blue Island's the center of the universe, as I've been stating before. And here's another example of the Cal-Sag Trail. Again, I'm going to let it back to you. We're going to see what the things, these are plans right now. Again, who knows? Maybe in the future, branches or spurs can be built out of this. So let's keep positive thinking that things can be changed. The main thing, let's get it done so that we can get it going. And then from there, we start building out of that, branching out. Thank you. It's all yours.
And before I get into kind of more of the details of the revisions, do you have any? You had some updates on some events with the Cal-Sag Trail?
Yeah.
Maybe we touch on first.
Yes. I'll just stand over here. June 3rd, Saturday. Don Haley is jumping into the Cal-Sag Trail.
Awesome.
8 of us are. Dawn hasn't signed up yet, but she's on the edge. She's going to get it done tonight. 8 of us will jump in from a catamaran in the middle of the Cal-Sag, between Western Avenue and the new Chatham Street Bridge, as a fundraiser for the Cal-Sag Trail. Friends of the Cal-Sag Trail hopes to raise money to provide benches and water fountains and some of the other amenities that make a trail not only more pleasant, but also more useful for a wider range of people. And that's always been the goal, is to maximize the benefits of this trail for all the communities and the people who live here. We're the halftime show for the dragon boat races, which are also Saturday. That's a full day of people rowing like crazy people in 20-foot long racing canoes down the Cal-Sag. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's 14 teams this year. It's going to be really competitive. Lots of water flying around. Lots of competitive juices flowing. Plus a festival. That's a part of the races this year. And the Race Central is also the grandstand for watching us plunge. It's right down by the SEPA station, the waterfalls, by Western Avenue Bridge. So that's the festival area for dragon boats. Come out and watch us plunge. If you want to donate to my plunge or any one of the other 7 people jumping in, you can go to calsagplunge.causevox.com, or there's an easy link from our website, calsagtrail.org. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. So before I go through each one, just to remind everybody, in the back there is a sign-in sheet just to kind of let everybody know that we're all here today and talking about the trail. There's also comment forms in the back as well. So if you'd like to comment on any of the revisions that we're presenting today, or any of the other segments of the trail that's basically in the eastern half of the project from Alsip all the way to Burnham, this is another opportunity to kind of comment on those aspects as well. So comment forms, sign-in sheet, pens, and paper all in the back right now. Maybe what I'll do, since I'm kind of far away, I'm just going to come up a little bit closer here talk to everybody. Sorry for the.
Would you like a
camera.
Vanna? Let me
Sure.
be your Vanna.
We have an excellent Vanna White here. So what I'd like to present here is we've got 3 copies of this. I actually can kind of pass them out too. Why not, since we have some extras here, so everybody can see kind of closer up. This is the eastern half of the Cal-Sag Trail, 13 miles. It's broken up, you can kind of see the numbers here, segments 1 through 8 in the white circles. And those are the construction contracts for the project that are planned. So right now, section number 4 was just completed earlier this year, that's the Chatham Street Bridge. Section number 5, which is running in Riverdale, is under construction right now. That's going across Phase Point at the channel there, kind of to make that connection. And hopefully section number 6, we'd like to get that in by the end of the year if we can. So the stretch of the trail will be complete all the way through the village of Riverdale. Section number 8 kind of runs all the way through Dolton and Calumet City and Burnham. And then we've got our segment, Blue Island West is what it's called, which is the yellow one, number 3, that goes through City of Blue Island. The ALSIP segments are broken into 2. Originally it was 1 contract. The red number 1 segment, that is what we're currently designing as well with the ALSIP Park District. Segment number 2 in the orange was actually adopted by Cook County as part of a separate project. They're going to actually reconstruct that portion of the road and incorporate the trail a little bit further down the line. So that will probably be the last segment that gets constructed, just because it's been taken over by the county and it's going through a different process in terms of construction, the reconstruction of that road.
You want to explain, that's the section where the refinery was, correct?
Yeah. So it's a refinery section over there. There's no existing curbs. It's really not the best. It's a lot of potholes if anybody's ever driven over there.
The car refinery?
Yeah, or that way,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that segment is gonna be reconstructed by the county. The next part I want to kind of point out on the map here is all these black segments that are called out with the black circles and the letters. Those are the revision sections that we want to present today. We've got, moving from west to east, we've got D1 in ALSIP, which is basically the original alignment of the trail there was along the east side of Pulaski. We're actually proposing now to move it to the west side after our coordination with the county, village of ALSIP Park District, and then moving on, coordinating with the railroad, just to push the crossing of the trail from 129th Street to 131st Street, which is a signalized intersection. So we're working on that redesign. This is section C, which runs through Blue Island. We weren't able to get an easement with the railroad to realign kind of this southerly part of the trail here that would connect later on into the neighborhood. So what we've done is we're pursuing an on-street trail that will have buffered bike lanes that kind of falls in line with what the city's bike plan is, that connects basically Francisco all the way into downtown. So the buffered bike lanes, if anybody's seen City of Chicago bike lanes, that's what we're kind of going after, where there's a painted separation that's 2 to 3 feet wide with those flexible delineator posts, those plastic posts that kind of stick out of the ground to kind of help separate bikes from vehicular traffic. Riverdale, we have 3 segments to talk about today, B1, B2, B3. This is kind of just a minor realignment from what was approved in the original Phase 1 that ran just on the north side of 134th Street. They will actually now run more on an angle connecting into Forest Preserve property towards their parking lot. This segment 2, there were some right-of-way issues that we ran into along Halsted Street there, trying to continue the trail south to 138th Street. So what we did was take advantage of the existing kind of access road that went underneath Halsted to connect the trail right in front of the village office there, the police and fire station and municipal building there, which actually kind of works out well as kind of bringing more attention to the village itself, putting in one of the gateways at that location. This last segment, again, was a railroad easement issue that we had for B3. So right now, what's shown is the trail going going just to the west of what the existing alignment was in Riverdale. Sorry, Jerome, you getting tired.
No, actually, you get an itch.
E2 is a really kind of minor realignment here. We went from the north side of the wetland that we're cutting through to the south side of the wetland based on some recent construction that was performed by IHB Railroad. They actually added another track. So there's issues there with being that close to the railroad with an embankment section. And then this section through A1, after further coordination with IDOT, they wanted to realign that section of the trail because it actually went down a segment of alley that they wanted to avoid. So we'll go into more detail with that segment as we move along. But thank you.
Thank you.
So quickly, what we've got is these aren't detailed plans, these are just kind of alignment plans that show the new location of the trail. What's shown in the blue dotted line, that was what was approved in the phase 1 document that was approved in 2015. So as we moved into what's called phase 2 or the design part, we get into more detail about how the trail is going to be constructed and how it'll actually work. So again, as I had mentioned, with the coordination we had with the county and the park district, the decision was made to relocate the trail to the west side of the street and utilize the signalized intersection here at Pulaski and 131st for the crossing, rather than have it at an unsignalized intersection up here where we're just north of a railroad crossing as well. So to kind of alleviate those complications, we're pursuing moving the trail onto the west side of the street rather than the east side of the street. And then, as I mentioned, what will happen here is 131st is going to be reconstructed by the county, and they'll pick up the trail at this signal and continue it east into Blue Island.
Would the trail be on the north side or the south side of the street?
As of right now, it's scheduled to be on the south side of the street.
Okay.
That's what's in the phase 1 plans right now, is to be on the south side. As the county works on their development of their phase 1 and phase 2 plans, that might change. But where we're going to leave the trail in Alsip, it'll give them the flexibility to decide that in the future, whether it's going to go on the north or south side. But what we have in the phase 1 right now is for it to be on the south side of 131st Street. This the City of Blue Island section. This is where I mentioned where we ran into some complications with getting an easement from CSX. CSX actually owns the right-of-way kind of in this forested area here, next to this residential residence right there. So making this connection just proved to be infeasible. So we had to look at other options to connect the trail through the city. And what we did was we looked at the city's bike plan, for their future development. And what we're planning to do is have on-street bike lanes all the way on Vermont into downtown. And that kind of meets up with, you can see here, this is where the existing alignment connected back into Vermont. We basically just connected the dots here from here to here with the protected lane. And what we've got on the other side, this is just one of the pages. It's kind of hard to see here, at least from the scale of the plot, but you can see there'll be a bike lane that runs the whole way, but it'll be separated by buffered markings and hopefully flexible posts pending IDOT's approval. So that's one thing that we're hoping to do with them. There'll also be some signal work is what's scheduled to help with this bike crossing here to get back onto Francisco.
And on Vermont, it's also going to be on the south side of the street?
So Vermont will be split, so it'll be directional.
Okay.
Westbound bikes will be on the north side of the street, eastbound bikes will be on the south side of the street, running basically with traffic, but hopefully, again, buffered and protected with those flexible posts. Section, the first board we have for the village of Riverdale. Again, this kind of highlights two of the areas where the realignment is. This section up north, it's a fairly minor change to the alignment. It used to run just on the north side of 134th Street within Forest Preserve right-of-way. Coordination with the Forest Preserve, they actually preferred realigning the trail closer to the parking lot entrance rather than run it right along the street. So that trail kind of swings in and comes away from this conflict zone with the intersection of the two streets, and pushes it kind of more into the parking lot where traffic's a little bit slower. One of the items actually in this yellow that I failed to mention before is, again, another railroad coordination issue, is original plans were to have a standalone bridge, pedestrian and bicycle bridge over this railroad. That coordination fell through with the railroad, so what we did is we were in discussions with IDOT. They were actually planning to do some rehabilitation work on that bridge, and what we're going to do now is actually widen the western sidewalk of that bridge to incorporate the shared use trail on the existing Halsted Street Bridge rather than have a separate standalone bridge. So the trail will be continuous all the way across on a widened sidewalk to accommodate the trail. As we come down, you can kind of see at the bottom of the page here, we actually ran into some right-of-way issues in terms of space. We're limited in how close we can get to a roadway and how close we can be to like an obstruction. So like a fence, we need to stay 2 feet away from the fence line in order to have a clear zone for the bicycles, handlebars, or if you kind of swerve off to the side so you don't hit something as you're riding your bike. So the limited amount of space here, which I think gets down to about 13 feet, just wasn't enough for us to accommodate the trail. So we looked into the alternatives for that, and there's actually a frontage road that kind of swings around and goes underneath Halsted and then comes back around, which kind of also actually helped us avoid the signalized intersection here, which is pretty busy for a crossing. Kind of swing it around under more of a low volume street, and then swing around the fire and police station, the village there, calling a little bit more attention to the village of Riverdale itself, and then pushing that crossing out away from the busy intersection to kind of a lower volume crossing at Union Avenue, where we pick up with the existing alignment. Okay, so the theme of the night is railroad coordination. So you can see here the phase 1 alignment had the trail running through CSX right away. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get CSX right away to accommodate the trail. So what's shown here is the proposed alternative in terms of relocating it onto village property, village right away, and then continuing down Michigan Avenue. That is currently what we're proceeding with in the design plans. There might be some minor tweaks to that in construction. It's all pending kind of the use of this property. It possibly might be off-street to connect those two legs, but that's what we have right now in terms of the phase 2 plans or phase 2 proposal. As I mentioned before, this is kind of more of a minor change in terms of where the trail is. The original alignment was right along, basically just outside the southern right-of-way of the IHB Railroad. There were some design issues with that, especially since the IHB just recently introduced a completely new track that was closer to their right-of-way. So in order to create a little bit more separation between the trail and the railroad, in addition to some of the other complications within the wetland that falls within ComEd's property, the trail was realigned kind of to the southern side of that ComEd parcel, connecting the wetland, or avoiding the wet, or not avoiding the wetland, but running through the wetland on the south side through here, and kind of just still meeting up with the existing alignment, but just pushing it to the other side. Again, we're kind of staying away from the fence line at the appropriate distance, but just connecting the dots at a different point, still through the wetland though. is just a kind of a continuation of the last sheet. Where again, we have some minor tweaks to the alignment. Coordination with the city of Calumet City. The original alignment had it kind of ducking into this detention basin property that's kind of fenced off right now. The city asked us to move that actually outside, so we've now continued the proposed alignment just north of that fence line into the village of Burnham. And you can kind of see there's just some minor changes here to the curves that we put into the alignment to connect those points based on the comments we received from Calumet City.
Brian?
Yes.
That goes under Torrance Avenue?
Yes. Yeah. So we'll be going under Torrance.
That's great.
Yeah, we've tried to avoid as many of the at-grade crossings if we can with the trail. We do have some that we unfortunately weren't able to, but yeah, as best as we can, that's what we'd like to do.
Have we increased the mileage? Instead of 26.2, now we're a little bit more or less?
Depends how straight you ride.
That's a good question. I don't know if we've done, because these alignment modifications are kind of still not finalized, I don't think we have the official length. I want to say it would probably be a little bit
Less?
shorter. I think it's slightly shorter than what it was.
Don't blame us, so don't blame Blue Island.
Is it cheaper?
Yeah. Are we saving money?
It might be. Blue Island West?
Yeah, we're
Blue Island
set, we
West?
should be. Yeah, Blue Island West, we're pulling off that off street stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely Riverdale, because we don't have that separate bridge.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the last section for the proposed realignment. This is segment A1 through Burnham. Now the original alignment you can see here in the blue dotted line ran down this alley and then ran through another alley before connecting to Marquette and then going on street at State Street, which is currently 2 lanes in each direction. So one of the lanes was going to be removed and a bike lane was going to get put in. The street actually feels like, at least from driving on it, it moves really fast. So what we did in coordination with IDA is we were discussing, the potential for realigning that portion of the trail just to avoid the alley more than State Street itself. And in working with the village, and based on an earlier coordination meeting that we had with them specifically, we were able to kind of introduce an off-street route that ran through this parcel that the village owns. And again, kind of also swings near the municipal center that the village of Burnham operates out of. So it's also nice because we're connecting that Lawhead Park that's shown right here and the municipal center and connecting that to the trail to kind of, bring that sense of community to the trail and tying these points together. After the municipal center, the trail goes on street. It's actually a marked lane through here on 145th and Muskegon before becoming a shared path kind of through this residential section on Goodrich and then tying into Alice. What's not shown on here is the future connection that's scheduled for the Burnham Trail that will connect the existing trail that runs south into a new trail that is hopefully going to connect us over the railroad and into the city of Chicago. So that section of the trail is still kind of in design and kind of the railroad coordination item. But that is kind of the future of connecting this Cal-Sag Trail into the city of Chicago and other trails at the eastern end. So that's a brief overview just of each of the boards we have up here. Based on the group size, we can definitely answer questions individually, or we can kind of answer them as a group right now if you have any that you'd like to ask. Ken Moy is sitting quietly over here, but he can also assist with answering questions. He's also with AECOM, the designers. So
I have one. When is the finish date? Do you have any idea finish for all phases?
It's hard to officially say when the finish date will be. Riverdale, hopefully, so sections 5 and 6. 5 for sure should be done this year. 6 we're hoping to get done this year. What will likely happen is that for 6, they may be able to get some of the work in this year, and then they'll finish up some like landscaping work and maybe some final paving work in the spring of the following year. The remaining sections, so the segment 8, which is obviously a bigger one, but we've got a lot of on-street sections of the trail through here, outside of what runs through the wetland and kind of through the backside of Burnham. I would say that will probably go out to letting by the end of the year, so hopefully we'll start construction on that in spring of next year and completing that by the end of next year. The Blue Island West, which is the yellow segment here, we're trying to get final plans done by the end of the year, so again, hopefully spring construction next year for that. Probably the one where I have the most non-committal answer would be the Alsop section. And that's primarily because we've got 2 at-grade railroad crossings there, that the petition to ICC was just submitted on that. So we have to kind of finalize the coordination with the railroads to make sure that they're okay with the 2 separate trail crossings. And there's a lot of approvals that need to happen with that. But I would anticipate that the majority of the trail outside of this segment 2, which is now under kind of Cook County's construction schedule, should be done by 2019.
And it's interesting that starting with Blue Island, you're going through close to our city hall, Riverdale, by theirs, and then Burnham,
Yeah.
right?
That's right. Yeah.
I think that's great from a safety standpoint too.
Yeah, yeah. That's one issue that if the spur would have, again, hopefully a miracle would happen and it would change. But again, that would be an issue, I think, for safety. How do you protect that? How do you,
You mean from Chatham to Old Western?
Where it was going to go down to...
By Stony Creek,
By
right,
Stony Creek.
exactly.
I was
Or even
wondering
by Halsted, the fact that it's going, that little kick around going underneath Halsted, that kicks out to their municipal center, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, to the police and fire department.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you got my 110%, I know, from the city and the residents of Blue Island, so.
How does it work when you ask these rail, you just like call them on the phone or something? When you ask the CSX for, you just make a phone call?
Well, it's phone calls, emails, or something, or meetings. It depends. I mean, usually the plans get distributed to the railroads for their review. Ultimately, they're in control of their own right-of-way. So if the trail is shown on the right-of-way and they decide that they don't want it there, then they kind of have that right to say, no, you can't put the trail there. I don't know, Ken, if you add anything on in terms of earlier coordination?
Even if they don't say no, they can just drag it out, and then just be back and forth. And then if we wanted to get the trail done and by next year, then we'd have to find alternate courses.
Do any of the politicians get involved?
Not that I know
No.
of. It's usually just between us and them.
Maybe I'll call Bruce Rauner.
The Illinois Commerce Commission's a good ally with the railroads.
I mean, I could just see, so I'm working for the railroad and somebody calls me and says, hey, can we use your land? No. Bye.
Right.
There has to be some kind of, I would say, public urging or pressure.
Well, that's, I mean, the one, it's not part of this project, but that just to kind of give you an example, that Burnham Trail connection here, that's planned to connect into the city of Chicago. That's something that right now is just being held up in coordination. And that the plans for that, I think, were done a year and a half ago. Pre-final plans.
Pre-final, not very final.
They weren't final plans, but that's been held up in legal proceedings
right.
for the last
They've been in court.
year.
They just tie you up forever.
Yeah, they could just tie you up. So, I mean, it's still, I think eventually it'll be worked out, but,
Yeah, since
there's-
2014, they'll finally go to trial, probably this year. But still, it's got to go that far, right?
Yeah. I know a lot of the trails, the bike trails, existing trails out in Palos Heights and stuff, go right through electric utility easements. And you're driving, the towers are right there.
Yeah.
So they've worked with the community, apparently where CSX is not.
Well, yeah, ComEd's, right away, we're actually using, the trail runs through ComEd right away on our project as well.
So they're friendly to the community and CSX really isn't.
Well, I mean, in CSX's defense, they do have a little bit of a different situation where, they're accessing their property a lot less frequently, and there's probably a lot less risk for them to allow a recreational use on their own right of way. So I can certainly see it from the railroad's perspective. But yeah, I mean, ComEd has been accommodating and allowing us to use portions of their right of way to connect the trail. That the larger kind of wetland segment, this is all basically in ComEd right of way. So that's coordination that we've got. We've had to get lease agreements with them, but they've been very forthcoming in helping make that happen. Yes.
Who assumes the liability when somebody gets hurt?
On the trail, it's an interesting question.
All right, that's the business owner.
Biker beware.
Who pays? Like,
The municipality bears the burden of liability, but in Illinois, there's really great tort protection for trails as a recreational facility.
Okay.
It's the only recreational facility that's explicitly called out for protection from negligence. So it's a much higher standard that somebody has to pass in order to sue the city. And so that's why trails get built in Illinois, because the burden is actually in practice really small.
cool.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Can't wait.
Me neither.
It's consumed 15 years of the lives of some people building this trail, so Brian's just at the beginning.
I'm at the beginning. I am at the beginning, but it feels like
You're at the best end,
Yeah.
though. You're
Yeah,
at
no, I know. We're
finish
getting
end.
close. We are getting close.
That one night going out for a little pizza really cost you, Steve.
Lunchtime pizza. That's
The lunchtime pizza was even.
right.
So it starts in spring 2018 and it takes a year?
There's construction now, right?
Yeah, there is
Blue Island
construction
East.
now, so that, yeah, this green segment, Blue Island East is in construction right now. We're really hoping, we're working with IDOT to try and expedite getting this segment 6, Riverdale, built this year too. So theoretically, all of Riverdale, outside of maybe some minor landscaping issues or landscaping work, would be done by the end of the year. That's what we're hoping for. Section 5 should definitely be done by the end of this year. But the Blue Island section,
The west section, because there's two parts, there's east and
I'm
west.
sorry, Blue Island
Yeah.
West.
So Blue
West.
Island East is being done, is being constructed as we speak.
As we speak.
Come
Yeah.
Ashland East.
Blue Island West is the one that's gonna take probably another year.
Do you know
Yes.
the completion date for the bridge across the Little Calumet?
I'd have to check with the RE. I know that the contractor had sent in their shop drawings for the bridge, and they usually that takes a couple months once they're approved to kind of get all the steel ordered and delivered. So, I'd probably say August. That would be my guess, as to when that would go in. Yeah.
Just to walk on Joe this weekend.
It's gonna be very fun, yeah.
That'd be nice just to walk out there.
Yeah.
Beautiful
So you
area.
need to make that check out to me.
Actually, I'm coming over here to see.
Yay!
Donation.
But yeah, for the remaining parts of the trail,
Friends
for
of the Cal-Sag.
the Alsip
Okay.
part, the Alsip segment, the yellow Blue Island West, and then the Golden Park District segment, which is shown in the purple. We're hoping to have all of that done by the end of next year. So, as I mentioned, this segment here with the railroad coordination, this is probably the biggest potential issue that may come up with that.
Thank you so much.
So hopefully everything by the end of next year, though that's the plan, outside of maybe some landscaping work in the following spring.
So the county's footing the bill to do 131st from Pulaski to Kedzie.
Not entirely, so that there are funds as part of the Alsip project, because originally the Alsip Park District segment was 1 and 2 together. Coordination with the county split out this segment 2. So funding for the trail itself, so for the asphalt that will go in to build the trail as a side path, would come from the same funding source that it was originally from, if that makes sense. So the
Because there's
road-
no curbs or anything on that road.
Right, so,
Yeah.
but the curbs and the roadway reconstruction would be handled by the county. But then the dollars to actually put the trail part in on the road, that would come from the funding source that ALSA has.
And I think the village of Al's participating. I think it's an easy.
Yeah, so the village is, the village of ALSA is working with the county on that reconstruction project. Technically, the contract that we have for like the segment 1, that was originally 1 and 2, is through ALSA Park District, which technically, they're not the same entity as the village of ALSA, but you know, they coordinate and work together.
No kidding. Beautiful.
Okay, well, we'll be here for a while, so if you have any more questions you'd like to ask individually, both Ken and I will be here to answer any questions. Again, if you have any comments or if you haven't signed in on the sign-in sheet, please do so in the back. But we'll be here. So thank you for coming out.
Thank you.